What's going on, everybody? My name is Matt and welcome back to East Coast Sabers. Today we're back in the shop with another saber review. That's right, and this time we're going over the new Graflex replica from KR Sabers. Like all of my reviews, I'll be going over this flash in detail, covering everything inside and out. I'll give you my pros, cons, and maybe even some of my personal opinions. But like always, I do my best to keep these reviews as factual as possible. So, enough talking, let's get right into it. Before we get into the flash itself, I'd like to go over the packaging just real quick. It is a very nice, sturdy construction. It is a two-piece cardboard design. But rather than going with a traditional Graflex replica box, KR has decided to go with something a little more original. But I like it. It's clean. It tells you exactly what you're getting and exactly who it's from. So, it's simple. It's different. I like it. So let's get it opened up and take a look at the actual flash. Now, as you can see, it does come in nice pre-cut foam, which keeps it nice and secure, so that's a nice touch. If you've seen any of my other reviews, you know that I like to start at the top and just work my way down rather than jumping all over the place. But before we do that, let's talk about the overall finish and general plating of the flash. The plating is pretty smooth and consistent throughout the whole saber with no real dings or blemishes to speak of. Only right around the bunny ears does it get a little more chrome than I would like, but overall it's not bad. Of course, it's difficult to pick that up on camera because of the lighting. It's also a little thin right around the button poles, the raised areas around the button and eye, where you can see just a bit of brass showing through. But it's covered by the button, so there's really nothing to worry about. And again, some of this is difficult to pick up on camera, so I'm not going to spend too much time on some of them. So starting at the top, let's talk about the actual S-curve itself. The shape of the curve matches that of a vintage, and the edges, at least on mine, are smooth and very clean cut. The inside of the curve is pretty reflective, but certainly an improvement over the stains and blotchiness other replicas have had in the past. Moving on to the bunny ears, the ears are the correct height, width, and are made from a solid steel, so you don't have to worry about disforming them, and they have an accurate amount of polish to them. The band is riveted on, so no chance for a tiny screw to fall out, and the band is a decent finish as well. The plating is a little too chrome, but you can tell that the steel underneath is brushed, which helps it appear less reflective. The bunny ear rivet is a smooth, domed, threaded screw, and it has a nice screwdriver slot in the back, like the '89 Sabers version, which I think is a nice touch. Makes it much easier to get in and out. The red button has a decent dull finish to it, though it looks as if this was poor plating that just kind of worked out for the best. The overall profile, though, is pretty accurate to a vintage, though the knurling has some small flat tops on it rather than an accurate point. Both the red button and glass eye poles in the shell are oval rather than the correct round shape, which is a flaw that every major replica has had in their first attempts. But unique to this flash, both have been either threaded or pulled at an awkward angle. This makes the buttons and eyes sit crooked on the flash, as well as making it awkward to install them since you're trying to line the threads up perpendicular to the body. It can take a few tries to get in, and I had an especially hard time with the glass eye. And if you do have trouble, don't try to force them back in. You'll strip out the threads and damage the brass. You can see the red button pull is also not perfectly centered under the button. It's a little more rearward than I would like. While we're taking a look at the buttons, we can also see that the beer tab is the correct dull finish. Making our way down to the slide switch, you'll notice that it too has the correct dull finish. The stud itself seems to be the accurate profile as well. The switch moves freely, and if you put batteries in, the switch works and the test bulb will illuminate, so that's awesome. Next, let's open the flash up, remove the internals, and see what it looks like inside. So, getting this apart, let's answer the big question that everyone is going to ask. Yes, the sync pin holes do match a vintage and all other replicas currently available on the market. So you are able to use a vintage bulb socket or any of the major blade holders out there designed for a vintage. One thing to note, however, is that upon testing a TGS bulb socket inside this flash, it seems that the slide switch arm, the internal one, on the KR sits just a tad lower and may interfere with other models of bulb sockets. This probably won't be an issue if you're using a blade holder, since most of that arm will be cut away anyway, but it's something to keep in mind if you plan on using someone else's bulb socket assembly. Now this replica, at least the one that I have, uses smooth brass sync pins. I don't know if stepped pins will be an option or if any of you even care, but this uses smooth pins. It's also worth pointing out that this flash uses the one-piece wraparound sync tab design rather than individual tabs like other replicas use. It makes no difference in terms of functionality or fitment with blade holders. I just kind of found it neat. Under the red button, it uses accurate square drive pins, but they are also brass, unlike other replicas that use steel. With the bulb socket removed, we can see that the beer tab and slide switch are both riveted on. So if you're going for an ESB and need to remove the tab, the safest way to do so will be to remove the bulb socket assembly and grind it off from the inside. There is not much else to say about the socket assembly itself. It seems to be made from a durable plastic and is both accurate and functional. Moving down to the clamp, we can see that the plating is solid with no thin spots anywhere that I can see. But the finish is uneven with very bright chromed areas right next to the braces where they didn't brush it at all. The clamp braces themselves are also a highly polished chrome rather than the more accurate dull brushed finish. But like the bunny ear band, we can see that the steel is brushed underneath the chroming, which does add to the texture of it. The clamp lever is an accurate shape with a decent finish on it. There's honestly not much to say about that. It's a lever. The clamp ears, however, are bent at awkward angles and not the proper 90 degrees, which may make it difficult to install a clamp card. Taking a look at the brace, we can see that again, at least on this one, the nut wasn't welded perfectly centered in the brace, so the holes don't align. I'm not sure if this is going to be a problem in any way, but if you have any fitment issues, keep an eye on it. Now let's take a look at the most important part of the clamp, the logo and the lines. Here we can see that the logo uses the correct font, but unfortunately that's about all the good I can say about it. The ends of the logo don't align properly with the square cutouts for the tabs. They go beyond them, much like a lot of the other early Graflex replicas. The lettering is also thin and fairly shallow. The logo, along with the lines, seem to be etched rather than the accurate stamping, which would explain the thinness. Also, much like a lot of the other early replicas, the lines get thinner the closer you get to the bottom of the clamp. It's difficult to make up these details on camera, but in person you can see it more defined. Continuing down, the lower half is fine, with matching plating to the top, which is nice since a lot of early replicas had difficulty matching the plating between tops and bottoms, but this one is consistent. Taking a look at the pommel, we can see that this is actually a two-piece end cap with an accurate rolled lip. Again, some early replicas had a one-piece bottom tube that you could tell just wasn't right. But the problem with this end cap is the finish and the stamping, or rather the quality of the stamping. We can see these end caps are a very bright mirror chrome that has been poorly attempted to be knocked down using most likely a Scotch-Brite pad. But it didn't really work, so we're left with a chrome end cap with some scratches in it. Now you can try and knock this down more yourself with some Scotch-Brite, but it will never look authentic and properly plated. And you run the risk of sanding too much and exposing the brass underneath. Getting back to the stamping, we can see that KR has done something a little different and opted for a Graflex Ink Stamp, which I find cool. Most go the Fulmer route because of the KR Saber, but this break from tradition will help set his replica apart. And rather than using the patent number, he has instead replaced it with KRS LTD, which is a cool touch and a nice little Easter egg. Unfortunately, the stamping itself is rather thin, especially towards the bottom, like the clamp lines. So that's it, folks. That's the whole flash from top to bottom, inside and out, for all its pros and cons. Overall, this is a decent first attempt at a replica, but unfortunately, KR Sabers seems to have been plagued by the same Graflex curse that has struck so many other makers. No one seems to be capable of producing a completely accurate Graflex in their first attempt. But as I said, this is on par with other first tries, and I'm looking forward to seeing what improvements are made for the next run. If there is a next run, that is. I sincerely hope Cal takes the feedback from this video and any other constructive criticisms and puts it towards improving the next run, because he really does have a decent first attempt here. From here, it's just a matter of tweaking the molds and tooling and some of the processes to get it perfected. I know a lot of people only care about the overall rating given to a product, but oftentimes, like this, it's difficult to do that because people tend to focus on either just the good or just the bad. So if you're a perfectionist looking for the most true to a vintage replica you can get, this one probably isn't for you. But if you don't know the fine details of the Graflex, or you just don't care, this is a great option. Coming in at only $100 US, this is a great choice for a shelf piece, a stunt saber, or the makings of a broke flex or fix flex. So again, rating is difficult here. If you're judging it by whether or not it's functional as a flash, can be converted into a saber using community standard parts, and looks the part, you have to give it a 10 out of 10 because it does everything it's supposed to do. But if you're scoring it in terms of accuracy to a vintage down to the most minute detail, I have to give it a 5 out of 10. Now 5 out of 10 on my scaling is right down the middle of the road average. Yes, it does what it's supposed to do, but the small flaws and imperfections add up and take points away and limit the people who are going to be interested in it. But those flaws also lower the price, bringing it closer to the range that a lot of people are able to afford. I say if you're looking for something decent you can mess around with and learn on that won't break the bank, go ahead and jump on this. If you're looking for the best of the best and money is of no object to you, there are plenty of other options out there. Does that make any sense? I really hope so. But that'll do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know in the comment section below. And if you like this video, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. It really helps me out a lot. And if you're new here and you like what you saw, please consider hitting that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss any of the other videos I put out. And be sure to check out all of my other reviews. I've done one for all of the other Graflex replicas on the market, so you can choose the one that's right for you. As always, thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you.